While America changed its mind, my father was still at war. February 27th, 1968. To most people, it was just another Tuesday, except it wasn't. That night, Walter Cronkite sat behind his desk at CBS and said the quiet part out loud. He told the country what soldiers had known for years, but few in living rooms wanted to believe. That Vietnam, the war we were told we were winning, was in truth a stalemate, a quagmire, a slow, grinding bleed with no clear end. For a decade, the government had promised light at the end of the tunnel, but when Cronkite said there wasn't any tunnel left, something cracked. The most trusted voice in America broke the silence, and the ground shifted under everyone who was still watching. In living rooms all across the country, television screens flickered blue against the walls. Maybe someone dropped a dish in the kitchen. Maybe someone turned up the volume and said, "Shh, listen." Maybe someone cried because they suddenly realized their son or husband or brother was over there and might not be coming home. It was my mother's 21st birthday. I don't know if she saw the broadcast or what she wished for when she blew out her candles, but I know this much. She loved a man who was still in country, still in uniform, still breathing jungle heat and gunpowder, still waking up every day not knowing if he'd see the sunset. My father was a Marine Staff Sergeant, 3 tours, front lines, no medal pin to his silence, no interviews or documentaries, just a man still doing the job while the rest of the world finally started to ask, what the hell are we doing over there? That's the part about war that nobody talks about, the timeline between public awakening and private endurance, the long stretch between the moment a country changes its mind and the moment the men inside it are allowed to stop fighting. While America changed its mind about the war, my father was still living it. And my mother, young, loyal, and afraid, was trying to blow out birthday candles without letting the smoke look too much like grief. I wasn't even born yet, but I feel that day in my bones, the strange overlap between what the world was realizing and what my parents were still enduring. I feel it like an aftershock from an earthquake I never lived through, but somehow inherited. Because history isn't just headlines, it's bloodlines. And when something that big happens, something that shifts a nation's consciousness, it doesn't just end when the credits roll. It keeps echoing through the people who are shaped by it and then through the ones who come after. My dad eventually came home. Not all at once, though. More like in pieces. The body made it first. The rest took longer. For years, he didn't talk about it. Not because he couldn't, but because there weren't words that made sense in a country that had already moved on. By the time I was old enough to ask questions, the war had been reduced to a chapter in a history book, a handful of statistics, and a few old photos of young men in jungle fatigues. But for him, it wasn't over. Not really. You could still see the reflex in his shoulders when a car backfired. You could still hear it in the silence after the 4th of July fireworks. And for my mother, it never fully ended either. She had lived through the waiting, the weeks when no letters came, the months of not knowing whether to buy his favorite cereal or not. By the time the country was marching in protest, she was still setting the dinner table for 2, just in case. That's what February 27th, 1968 means to me. Not the broadcast itself, but what it represented. The split second between public opinion, when public opinion shifted, but private reality hadn't caught up. When Walter Cronkite told the truth to America, and my father was still halfway around the world, doing the job he'd been sent to do. He didn't see the broadcast. He didn't hear the words that made headlines the next day. But I like to imagine him somewhere in the jungle that night, leaning against a sandbag wall, cigarette burning down to ash, and somehow sensing that something had changed, that the country he was fighting for had finally started to question the fight. Maybe that's why he never glorified it. He wasn't angry at the protesters. He wasn't bitter about the news coverage. He just carried it quietly, like a man holding a secret that nobody had asked to hear. And maybe that's why, decades later, I can still feel that day, even though I wasn't alive for it. Because it marked more than time. It marked a family. It marked the distance between duty and doubt, between a nation, what a nation believes and what it asks of its sons. Every generation has one of those days where the story we've been told suddenly collides with the truth. For my father, it was February 27th, 1968. For my mother, it was the night she tried to blow out birthday candles without crying. And for me, it's every time I see that old footage of concrete saying, "We are mired in stalemate." And I can almost hear my dad in the background, dry, unbothered, maybe even cracking a little grin, muttering, "No shit, Sherlock. Semper Fi." Thank you.